This is a simple pasta dish made with chicken, tomatoes, peppers, and rigatoni, and what I figure you are only going to be inclined to make if those are the only 4 ingredients in your possession. I'm experimenting with an odd and overcomplicated technique that I'm inclined to try with spaghetti and meatballs, and it starts with cooking the meat and tomatoes in the oven. I'm starting off with a little olive oil in this roasting tray and placing in 4 boneless, skinless chicken thighs as opposed to breasts because they can tolerate the longer cooking time that I intend to use for this dish. I'm also adding the individual tomatoes from the can, but not the sauce yet. Oh, this one isn't ripe. I should ask for a refund. Here's some black pepper because that's what we do in this part of the world. The chicken was already salted and placed in the fridge for several hours prior to filming. I wanted to get a nice fire-roasted tomato flavor on these by placing them under the broiler, but all I do is confirm that my smoke detectors are working, which is perfect because October is Fire Safety Month. It was a recipe for disaster with all the fats and water sitting in there being blasted with heat. Next time I might put the tomatoes in by themselves for a few minutes. Regardless, I'm going to set this to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, but before this continues to cook, I need to remove this burnt on food, and I do that with a wet paper towel. On a side note, this part with me scrubbing off the burnt food was actually before I'd tried moving it farther away from the broiler. I only got the recording of the smoke detectors going off after I adjusted the distance, and I wanted the hard cut from placing the food under the broiler to the smoke alarms going off for dramatic effect. I returned to the oven for another 10 minutes before checking it again. I also didn't get any other shots of the food after that extra time under the broiler, and it was under there almost long enough to start a fire. So that's why it looks so much closer to done. I'm flipping them over because that seems like a good thing to do. Okay, so I was able to get a little bit of charring on these tomatoes. I put it back in the oven and set the timer for 30 more minutes, and partway through I remember I have some serrano peppers that need to be used up, so I cut those up and put those in. I would have preferred something a little milder, but this is what I had. I also decided it's a good time to add the rest of the tomato sauce. I'm spreading it out because I want to lose a good amount of water to evaporation. I want to see what happens if I don't drain the pasta and just dump it in there when the time comes. Back in the oven that goes for the rest of the 30 minutes. That looks plenty well done. In the meantime, I'll store that in the warm oven and prepare the pasta. Here's a 1-pound package of rigatoni and a quart or 2 pounds of water, enough to cover most of it. Then I'm going to monitor it until it gets above 170 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the temperature that pasta actually starts to cook. Once it reaches that point, I set the timer for 10 minutes. While the pasta is cooking, I remove and chop up the chicken. Then I push the tomatoes into a little pile in the center of the roasting pan and use the immersion blender to mash them up. Here goes the pasta and all the remaining water after 10 minutes of cooking. The directions on the package say to cook it for 14 minutes. There's that whole balancing act of boiling off excess water and letting the pasta absorb the rest. I probably should have pulled it 2 minutes early instead of 4, but that's better than pulling it too late and having it be overdone. The heat is on under this roasting tray. I will eventually have it over the back burner too. I'm going to stir this until the sloshy tomato water here reduces into a sauce and starts sticking to the noodles. Then assess them for doneness. Seems like a solid plan to me. I end up stirring this for a long time. I could have picked a better shaped noodle to use for this, seeing as the rigatoni is only a quarter of the way submerged at a given time, so I'm sure that's why it took more than 4 minutes to finish this. I actually had to start adding water back in when the sauce thickened up before the pasta was done. There's probably some sort of ideal shaped pasta for this exact application. Spaghetti would stay submerged and absorb the water faster, but perhaps before the rest of the excess water evaporated. But if I only had the burner on the one side of the pan, I could push it aside while the sauce finished. Maybe I can try that another time. Penne and other similarly sized pastas might be a happy medium where they wouldn't take 100 years to finish cooking, but would still give the sauce time to reduce down. You know, I'm liking the push the spaghetti to the side idea the best. I'm really trying to drag out this narration just so you can get an idea of how long it took to finish cooking and how much extra water I had to add. Okay, so I just looked at the times on the individual video files, and the one where I dumped the pasta into the roasting tray was created at 4:43, and the one right now where I'm deciding it's done was created at 5:10, so it took almost half an hour. This chicken looks like roadkill, but I'm putting it in here anyway. I have the heat still going for a while as I let this chicken heat back up. Now I kill the heat and grate in a pile of Parmesan and stir that in. I think this looks the way rigatoni with tomato sauce should look. Here's some more Parmesan to make it look nice for the camera. I strategically saved these bits of fresh pepper on the side of the knife as a garnish. Too bad I forgot to take a photo of this. I will have to take a video still for the thumbnail, probably from around here. This creation was mostly successful. That inspires me to try it with spaghetti and meatballs sometime. Maybe I'll make a video about that someday.